I recently came across a statistic that said about 75% of all self-made billionaires had some sort of direct sales experience before making their fortune. As someone who spent years as a door-to-door salesman, I can definitely see why this is the case. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly why having experience in sales can lead to massive amounts of success for you down the line. And it really comes down to 3 skills that it cultivates. Now, before we get started, I do want to thank my sponsor this week, Squarespace, for making this video possible. They helped me renovate my website, improvementpill.net, which you guys can go to access my reading list and much, much more. The first thing that you learn from working in direct sales is a strong belief in work ethic. Most direct sales jobs operate on commission, which means you get paid depending on how much you sell. And since customers aren't handed to you, you have to actively look for them by making calls, by sending out emails, or even knocking on doors. This means in a direct sales environment, if you worked harder, you would generally make more money. And seeing this happen on a day-to-day basis causes you to develop a very strong belief in work ethic. Now you might be thinking, well, yeah, that's common sense. Everyone knows that working harder means you'll be rewarded more. But the truth is, most people don't really believe in work ethic. They just say they do. Most people work jobs where it doesn't really matter how hard you work. For example, a cashier who serves 5 more customers per hour than average still gets paid the same amount as any other cashier. A nurse who goes out of her way to help patients still gets paid the same amount as any other nurse. A public school teacher who works his butt off to come up with inspiring lessons for his students makes the same as the teacher next door who teaches straight from the textbook. When you work in a place that doesn't reward work ethic, you stop believing in it. And without a strong internal belief in work ethic, you'll find it very difficult to work hard when you actually need to. You don't have the internal belief or the discipline needed to chase after your goals. On the other hand, if you spent a decent chunk of time in sales, you start to believe that the harder you work, the more you'll get in return. This makes you more disciplined and more willing to work hard on something that may or may not reward you. So it's no surprise that most self-made billionaires have some sort of sales experience. There simply aren't many places besides sales where you can cultivate a strong belief in work ethic. The second skill that you learn is social skills. When I was doing door-to-door sales, I would knock on a door, and if somebody opened up, I would have about 5 minutes to convince them that I was a good person. This meant my social skills had to be fine-tuned. I had to sound confident or else they wouldn't take me seriously. I had to show that I cared about them in order for them to trust me, and on top of all of that, I had to be funny and relatable in order for them to even want to help me. I basically had to become their friend in about 5 minutes. And the same applies for every other sort of direct sales job out there. If your social skills are not fine-tuned, if you cannot establish a good relationship in a short period of time, you will not make the sale. Well, how does this relate to self-made billionaires? Well, it's simple. If you're a likable person, people will want to interact with you. This means that potential customers are much more likely to buy your stuff. Other business owners are much more likely to want to work with you. And most importantly, you'll have a large network. There's a famous saying that goes like this: your network is your net worth. This is because the more people in your network, the more people who like you enough that they're willing to help you, the more resources you have. It's almost impossible to build a $1 billion empire by yourself, but if you have help from dozens of other powerful people, it becomes much easier. Working in sales forces you to learn the same social skills needed to eventually grow this sort of network. The third and final skill you learn is dealing with rejection. When you're doing door-to-door sales, you don't really have any sort of supervision. There's no boss looking over your shoulder to make sure that you knock on more doors or make more calls, and because of this, there's usually an internal struggle going on in your head throughout the day. There's a part of you that knows you need to knock on more doors in order to get a sale, but there's also a part of you that's constantly telling you to give up, to blame the neighborhood, to blame the weather, to blame the product, and just call it a day. All of this has a direct link with how you take rejection. Rejection comes in many shapes and forms, especially for a direct salesman. I've been yelled at, I've had doors slammed in my face, I've had people call the cops on me, I even had someone tell their dog to attack me. The first couple of times it really affected me. I remember one incident early on in my career where I got cursed out by an old lady. I had to sit down on a park bench bench for about an hour before I could force myself to knock on doors again. But over time, as I continued to work in sales, I started to become more resistant to rejection. It got to the point where even if I was chased out of a building, I would laugh it off and immediately knock on another door. Most people nowadays are extremely scared of rejection. We're scared to talk to girls because we're afraid of being called a creep. We're scared to follow our passions because we're afraid of looking like a fool. We care so much about what other people think that we stick to what everyone else does. Because that's the only way to really avoid rejection, by doing things that are so normal, so boring, so plain that you don't risk any chance of getting rejected. The problem with this is that success can only be achieved if you take risks. You must be brave enough to face your fear of rejection. Not only that, you must also be able to continue trying after getting rejected over and over again. Working in sales can really change your life because of 3 skills that it teaches. It teaches you to truly believe that working harder will give you better results. It teaches you the social skills you need to build up a business. And it teaches you how to deal with rejection, with negativity, and push forward regardless of what others are saying. It's no wonder that 75% of all self-made billionaires have some sort of sales experience in the past, because these 3 skills are crucial for reaching that level of success. Again, I would like to thank our sponsors, Squarespace, for making this video possible. I've been thinking about rebuilding my website for quite a while now, and Squarespace made the entire process extremely easy. They have a bunch of high quality templates that you can choose from, and the editing process is simple and straightforward. You can drag and drop your pages to rearrange them. You can click on any feature on a page and adjust how it looks. It's great for those of you that are somewhat intimidated by the idea of building your own website. Head on over to squarespace.com/improvement pill for 10% off their yearly plan.